It had been 3 days since the rift tore open the town square, but for Amanda, time had lost all structure. Days blurred into nights, meals went cold on untouched trays. The world outside the ICU felt distant, unreal, as if she were the one trapped between worlds. Daniel's room was dim, lit only by the soft glow of monitors. The machines hummed with a steady, indifferent rhythm. Amanda sat beside him, fingers wrapped around his hand, waiting for the familiar pulse, that faint echo she had felt since the fracture. A whisper of him, a thread she refused to let go of. Tonight, the echo came, but faintly, weak, like a voice calling from far away. She leaned closer, whispering his name as if the sound alone might anchor him. The pulse flickered, then faded again. Eric appeared in the doorway, shoulders heavy from a long shift. He hesitated before stepping inside. He felt older than he had 3 days ago, older than he had felt since Daniel's phone call weeks earlier. He had always been the rational one, the steady one, but nothing about the last days made sense anymore.
Amanda, maybe you should rest.
She didn't look at him. Her eyes stayed fixed on Daniel's still face.
He's slipping. I can feel it.
But the truth pressed against her like a weight. The echo was weaker than ever, and she didn't know why. Harbor City, at a docking platform. Fog drifted across the metal platforms as Evangelina prepared for departure. Harbor City sprawled beneath them, a maze of neon lights, rusted towers, and the constant thrum of machinery. Cargo drones buzzed overhead like restless insects. Somewhere far below, a siren wailed and faded into the night. Cullen moved through pre-flight checks with the calm precision of someone who trusted his ship more than most people. Pamela secured the last crates, muttering to herself about mislabeled cargo and incompetent dock workers. Ben stood apart, half hidden in the shadows, watching a sharply dressed man near the loading ramp. Cold eyes, controlled posture. He didn't wear a uniform, didn't carry a badge, and didn't need to. This was the handler, the syndicate's quiet representative, the kind of man who appeared only when a shipment mattered more than usual, the kind who didn't need to raise his voice to make people nervous. 2 silent escorts flanked him, scanning the area with predatory stillness. Trevor lingered near the cargo lift, pale and unfocused. He rubbed his temples, trying to shake off the remnants of the nightmare that had followed him since the fracture. As Evangelina lifted, the handler watched the ship rise with an expression that was neither approval nor concern, just calculation. Trevor glanced toward the far end of the dock when they took off, recalling the meeting with the dark shade figure. Nothing there. Just fog. Just shadows. But something in him tightened anyway, a cold knot of instinct he couldn't explain. Later, aboard Evangelina. The cargo bay was quiet except for the low hum of the engines and the occasional metallic creak as the ship adjusted to vacuum. The air smelled faintly of coolant and old machinery. Trevor worked alone, tightening a valve that didn't need tightening. His hands trembled. He told himself it was just nerves, the mafia inspector, the pressure of the job, the lack of sleep. Then it hit him. A sudden shift inside him, not physical but deeper, like someone turning over in a dream. A presence brushing against his awareness, a flicker of fear that wasn't entirely his own. Daniel. Trevor gasped and dropped the tool. It clattered across the metal floor, echoing through the bay. He pressed a hand to his chest, breath shallow.
What's happening to me?
Inside him, Daniel felt the same confusion. a world he didn't recognize, a body that wasn't his, and a fear that belonged to both of them. The echo between them pulsed once, faint and disoriented. Then it faded. The corridor outside Daniel's room was quiet, washed in the pale glow of fluorescent lights. Amanda stepped out, rubbing her eyes with the back of her hand. She tried again, reaching inward, searching for the faint echo she had felt earlier. It flickered, weak, unsteady, like a radio signal drifting in and out of range. She pressed her palm against the wall, steadying herself.
Come on, just one clear pulse.
Nothing. A nurse approached, her voice soft, careful.
Miss Shepherd, the doctors asked me to remind you. They'd like to schedule another meeting about the life support evaluation.
Amanda's jaw tightened.
Not tonight.
The nurse nodded and retreated down the hall. Amanda closed her eyes again, reaching for Daniel. The echo was still there, but faint, distant, as if something were pulling him away from her.
Hold on. I'm right here.
But she didn't know how long she could keep saying it. Evangelina drifted through open space, leaving Harbor City's chaotic energy fields behind. Out here, the stars looked sharper, as if someone had wiped a layer of static off the universe. The ship's engines settled into a steady, confident hum. Cullen sat in the cockpit, adjusting their trajectory with small, precise movements.
Smooth sailing from here.
Pamela lounged in the co-pilot's seat, boots up on the console.
Feels good to get away from that place. Too many eyes. Too many rules.
Ben stood behind them, arms crossed, gaze fixed on the starfield. But he wasn't looking at the stars. He was replaying the Mafia inspector's expression, the way the man had scanned the cargo, and the way he had scanned Trevor. Trevor sat alone in the crew lounge, elbows on his knees, staring at the floor. The room was quiet, except for the low hum of the engines and the occasional metallic creak as the ship adjusted to vacuum. He tried to focus on something simple. A scratch in the table, a loose screw in the wall panel. But his thoughts kept drifting. There was that pressure behind his eyes again, that sense of something moving at the edge of his awareness, like a shadow that didn't belong to him. He rubbed his temples and let out a slow breath.
All the years of subterfuge are taking their toll on you, old chap. Get it together, before you really start losing your mind.
It was half a joke, half a plea. A familiar line he'd used on himself more times than he could count, back when he lived a life built on lies, false names, and careful masks. But the silence didn't answer. And somewhere deep inside him, Daniel stirred. Faint, disoriented, as if trying to find his bearings in a world that wasn't his. He felt the ship's departure in a way Trevor couldn't. The thinness of Harbor City was gone now, replaced by something denser, harder to reach through. Trevor stiffened, sensing the echo of Daniel's confusion without understanding it. He closed his eyes and whispered again, softer this time.
Get it together.
But the unease stayed with him. The mess hall smelled faintly of reheated rations and engine grease. The crew gathered around the small metal table, the hum of the ship a constant backdrop. Cullen shoveled food into his mouth with the enthusiasm of someone who had long ago stopped caring what it tasted like.
Outpost 12.
He said between bites.
Haven't been there in years. Place is rough, but the people are decent.
Pamela snorted.
Decent? The last time we were there, someone tried to sell me a genuine meteorite that was literally a painted rock.
Cullen shrugged.
Still decent.
Ben sat quietly, scrolling through his datapad. Surveillance notes. old case files. The handler's face stared back at him from a grainy photo. He zoomed in, studying the man's expression, the posture, the subtle tells. Trevor pushed food around his plate, appetite gone. He felt watched. Not by the crew, not by Ben, but by something he couldn't name. A pressure at the edge of his awareness, a presence that drifted in and out like a half-remembered dream. Pamela nudged him with her elbow.
You look like you haven't slept in a week.
Trevor forced a thin smile.
Feels like it.
Ben glanced up at him, eyes sharp.
Rough night? Just weird dreams.
Ben didn't look convinced. He studied Trevor for a moment longer, then returned to his datapad. But his posture had changed. More alert. More suspicious. Trevor felt the shift and looked away, pulse quickening. Inside him, Daniel stirred again. Faint, confused, reaching for something he couldn't grasp. Trevor pressed a hand to his chest, steadying his breath. He didn't know what was happening to him, but he knew it was getting worse. The ship trembled as it cut through the upper atmosphere. Outside the windows, there was nothing but darkness, the planet's night side stretching out below them like an endless void. Cullen leaned forward in the pilot's chair, eyes on the dim horizon.
Almost there. Outpost 12 should be...
What the hell?
Everything died. The lights, the engines, the displays, the hum of the ship. A single, suffocating second of absolute silence followed. The kind of silence that only exists when every system that keeps you alive has stopped. Then the panic hit.
What? Where are my tools? I can't see anything.
All navigation is dead. I've got nothing.
Did anyone see anything? Do you see anything?
All sensors are dead.
Evangelina tilted sharply. Metal groaned deep inside the hull. They were falling. Not fast, but enough for everyone to feel it in their stomachs. Trevor grabbed the edge of a dead console, breath shallow. The darkness pressed in around him. Not just the physical kind, but something deeper, as if the world itself had stepped away.
This is it. This is how we die.
Inside him, Daniel stirred. Faint, disoriented, reaching for something he couldn't grasp. Trevor felt like his inside gradually turned into liquid, and he had a terrible headache. It felt like his head was about to explode. Evangelina continued its silent fall through the black, and no one on board could see what waited beneath them.